Now that we've overviewed project budgets, let's get into the system and actually take a look at how we create them. For our demonstration called Create a Project Budget, we'll go in and we'll define the project budgeting parameters, and we're not going to do that at an actual module level, do that at a project level. Then we'll go in and define a cost and revenue budget. Then we'll just walk through the workflow process of submitting it and then approving it. And then finally, we'll take a look at the budget after it's approved and show you where it shows up and how you can get back to it and all the other navigation and review type functionality. All right, so we're going to create our first project budget here. And what you're looking at on the screen is the details of a project that I just created. And it's called the report creation project. So we're going to do some software development for I believe it's City, where's the contract or the counter? City Manufacturing, which is our customer, and they need some report development, and they only have a specific amount that they want to pay. Let's say that the budget's going to be a revenue budget of $10,000, and from an internal perspective, we want to only hit the $5,000 mark on our cost budget to make the margin that we're looking to make. So we're going to track all this within a project budget. And first of all, I previously have got this question a number of times. People that are familiar with budgeting, they'll come in and they'll create their project and then they'll just try and go enter their budget. So the first place to enter your budget, you go onto the Plan tab, and then there's a budgeting section and you go to Project Budget. You notice this is grayed out. And it's grayed out for a good reason, because we haven't enabled budgeting for this specific project. So there are a number of fast tabs on the details form here, and one of them is called Budget and Forecast. So I'm going to expand that, and the first toggle that you'll see is Use Budget Control. So I'll click on that, and notice how the Project Budget button now is enabled. So we're not going to get into these settings in detail right now. I have a setup and configuration lesson that we'll talk about later, which we can get into them. But just I'll highlight a couple of them. The first one is transaction types controlled. This is basically what types of budgets you're going to be looking at. So there, like I said previously, there's a revenue and a cost budget. And right now, if I have it selected as revenue and cost, the system's going to be evaluating against both of them. If it's cost only, pretty self-explanatory, only looking at the cost budget. If it's revenue only looking at the revenue budget. In our case, we want to track both costs and revenue and evaluate against them both, so we can. The next important setting is the budget overrun default. So typically, I've seen this just allow overruns is I would say 90% of the organizations that I've implemented for, this is what they do, because they don't want to stop business because they're overrunning the budget. They want to know that they're overrunning it. But anyways, you can allow overruns, which just lets you overrun. You can warn of overruns, which actually when you're posting transactions, you'll get a budget warning. So like on a timesheet, technically, like people that are logging their labor will get warnings. It doesn't warn the PM or anybody like that. It's the people that are actually posting the transactions. And then you can do disallow overruns, which is basically the same thing as the warnings, but it stops you. It won't let you post those documents. So in our case, I'll just say we're going to warn of overruns. And then if you have a group that you want to override your default setting here, you can do so. Like there's a group that can overrun the budget without warnings, you could add them in there. But like I said, we'll get into the different controls here. And we're going to be looking at our budget control interval as just a total budget. So there's no time constraints or anything like that. It's just I put a $10,000 budget in and it's for the lifespan of that project, not for like a specific month or something like that. Okay, so we've configured the budget control. So I'll go ahead and save those changes. We know our project budget button is now glowing, and this is where we actually go to enter our project budget. So I'll select that option. And once we select that option, you can come in and enter a description of what your budget is. We'll call it the report dev original budget, and this is where you can define your different costs and revenue. So I'm going to condense the revenue tab for right now, and we'll just look at the costs. A few things that we can do, and we'll be talking about this import functionality a little bit later, but it's possible to import your budget based off of different types. So old project transactions or your WBS estimates or anything that you forecast or just an entry. But I'll leave that alone for now. We're just going to manually enter things. So let's put the cost budget in, and what we're expecting here is yeah, some development work and a little bit of project management. That's all we'll budget for. But anyways, when we added a new line, it defaulted the project based on the project that we're associated with as our report creation project, which is 202. If you want to define an activity, you can, not required. But you have to actually budget at a transaction type level. So you have to select what transaction type you want, which is really the filter for which categories show up here. And you notice that that category field is red, so it's required. So we're going to define some categories. So let's find our, where is it? Okay, so there's the ERP development, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be doing some ERP development to create them some reports, and we'll say that we're expecting about $4,000 worth of ERP dev, and then we'll add a new line, and we'll pick our transaction type, and once again you can pick expenses or items, but I'm just going to keep this to labor to make it simple. And then we're going to have some project management, and I'll just type in PM, and we'll have $1,000 worth of costs specific to that. So the other thing to note is once you add a line and actually save that line, saving is a key word there. This details button displays after you save, and then you can define the details of a specific line. And if you come in here, you notice that there's at the bottom all the line information is there. But if you want to add details, you select the new button. You can pick which resource you're allocating to that specific budget line, what role they are, and the quantity, cost rate, and then it'll give you a total cost amount. The main thing to note here is it's the quantity field that's really the important one, and I guess the resource and role also can define what the rate is for cost, so those can be important as well. But if you're not worried about resource and role and you want to define quantities, you can. So you could say that you're expecting, I don't know, like 50 hours worth of development, and then it will automatically calculate to your cost price. I'm not going to have that because I just want to show you just without going into the details or anything, just a simple example. So we have $4,000 for ERP dev, $1,000 for project management, and I'll leave it as that. I'll just hit save to commit both those records, even though I think they were since I selected off of them. So now we have the revenue tab, and what I'm going to do is I could manually enter them, but I'm just going to generate them from costs, and you can see that basically it just takes your cost tab. It expanded that for me, but yeah, it just added the combination of project, transaction type, category that I had on the cost tab. And now you can define your original budget amount, and we're just going to say everything's double. So I'm going to say $8,000 worth of revenue we're expecting for ERP dev, and $2,000 worth of project management. And then from here, we have our budget ready. You can see that there's the totals at the bottom. We have a $10,000 revenue budget, and we have a cost budget of $5,000 as well. And I'll just go like that. And then once you have all your lines added to both tabs, it's as simple as submitting it. So now somebody needs to go up to the workflow button and submit this document or this budget to whoever's going to approve. So once again, workflow is required for project budgets. So you have to configure your workflow to either A, automatically approve budgets when they're submitted, or B, assign to somebody, or C, something else, because workflow is very flexible on what you can do. So I will just submit. And I'm just writing a comment, and when it gets assigned to somebody, you can actually have the comments display on the notification through workflow, but that's beside the point. We'll just submit it. And if you look at the tracking details for workflow as well, you'll see all the different comments that you add. What's happening now is workflow, we actually just sent a message to the workflow engine, and that message is getting processed by a batch. So every minute the batch processes all these messages, and what it does is it's trying to figure out who to assign the work item or the message that we sent to. And basically what we can do is keep an eye out on our workflow status. So you can see right now it's in a submitted status. If I hit the refresh button up here, you can see that it just automatically approved. So that batch ran, it picked up our message, and our workflow actually is configured to just automatically approve. So I don't have to do a manual approval. But if I was the approver, basically you'd go into this budget, or you'd get a notification first of all, or it'd show up in your work list to approve. But you'd come in here and one of your options would be approve, and you'd just approve the budget. But if you want to look at the history as well, you can go to view history, and you can see exactly what happened. And here's all the different steps. So the workflow was activated, which means I hit the submit button, and you can see it was submitted by Julia Funderburk. That's the user I'm assigned to, and I put that comment in of original budget. Then the approval started. Basically, it hit an automatic action within workflow, and that automatic action evaluated to true, so it was approved, and then it completed. And it completed on this side as well, and there was no more elements within the workflow to go through, so the workflow completed. Okay, so our budget is approved, and what that means is it's active. So we have a $5,000 cost budget and a $10,000 revenue budget allocated between the two categories. So if I go back to my project, which I'm on right now, I'm on the project details, you can go to the control tab, and you could have got to this from the budget, but I'll just show you from here. There's this button called Project Budget Balances, and this is a very cool feature. You can basically come in here and you can look at two tabs, your costs or your revenue budget. So you can see that I have an original budget and an approved budget of $10,000, and the remaining amount is $10,000 for a revenue perspective, and if I flip to the cost tab, $5,000 for our remaining budget. And basically you can expand this out, and then it's going to show you, all right, at the transaction type level, here's what you have going, and you can expand it out even further, and now it's going to show you at the category level how you're doing as well. We'll get into this report. I call it out specifically in a lesson so you guys can understand how you can configure it. There's some bells and whistles that can make this report flexible for you. So anyways, that's what I wanted to show you. We went through very basic budget. We created it. We submitted it. It got automatically approved, and then once it's approved, it starts showing up in the project budget balances. Now when you start logging actuals towards it, you'll see the actuals fall under the consumed budget amount, and your remaining budget will get adjusted and all that type of stuff in the project budget balances.